and welcome everyone to the Polity Primer series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya and today I am going to discuss a topic which has remained in the news recently. The title of our today's discussion is The Row Over Selection Panel of the Appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. In this discussion, we are going to see the constitutional provisions in relation to the Election Commission of India. Then we'll also analyze the post of the Chief Election Commissioner. Then we'll see the Supreme Court view regarding the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. Then we'll also discuss should CGI be the part of the selection committee of the Election Commission. Then we'll see a practice question for your prelims examination and a practice question for your mains examination. Now let us proceed to understand the background of our today's topic or the context in which we are having this discussion today. The Parliament has brought a bill in the Rajya Sabha which seeks to replace the CGI in the selection panel for the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. And this move has been criticized by the opposition parties. Now let us proceed to understand the constitutional provisions with respect to the Election Commission of India. If we talk about the Election Commission of India, it is a constitutional body or a constitutional authority which is responsible for conducting elections both at the union level and the state level in India. And if we talk about the mention of the provision related to elections in our Indian Constitution, it is mentioned in Part 15 of our Indian Constitution, which talks about elections from Articles 324 to 329. Articles 324 to 329. And if we talk about the establishment of the Election Commission of India, it was established on 25th January 1950. 25th January 1950. Popularly known as the National Voters' Day. It is currently a 3-membered body. And Article 324 of our Indian Constitution places the power of superintendence, direction and control of the elections in India in the hands of the Election Commission of India. Now let us discuss the post of the Chief Election Commissioner in details. So originally the Election Commission of India consisted of just one election commissioner, but this position changed after the enactment of Election Commissioner Amendment Act 1989 and the Election Commission of India was then made a multi-membered body. The Chief Election Commissioner appointment is mentioned in Article 324 Clause 2 of our Indian Constitution. Article 324 Clause 2 of our Indian Constitution, which states that the Chief Election Commissioners and such number of election commissioners, if any, as the President may from time to time fix. So this is talking about the Constitution of the Election Commission of India, and it gives the power of appointment of the Chief Election Commissioners and other election commissioners in the hands of President of India. And if we talk about the tenure of Chief Election Commissioner, he shall have the tenure of 6 years or up to the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. They enjoy the same status and receive salary and perks as available to the judges of the Supreme Court of India. So this all provisions are placed here to maintain the independence and impartiality of the Chief Election Commissioner as well as the Election Commission of India as a whole. Then his conditions of service shall not be varied to his disadvantage after his appointment. Why? Because we want him to be independent, we want him to be impartial, we want an independent body for conducting elections in India, and that is why his services cannot be varied to his disadvantage. He cannot be said that okay, if you will not do good, the Parliament may demote you, the Parliament may transfer you. No, this does not happen in the case of Chief Election Commissioner. His services cannot be varied to his disadvantage after he has been appointed. And if we talk about the removal of the Chief Election Commissioner, he can only be removed by a process of impeachment by the Parliament. So his removal is also similar to the removal of the Chief Justice of India. So though the President has the power to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner, the election commissioners and other regional election commissioners, the Chief Election Commissioner cannot be removed by the President of India. He can only be impeached by the Parliament. So this ensures his independence, his impartiality and the proper functioning of the election commission body as a whole. Now let us proceed to understand what the Supreme Court has viewed and observed on the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. So in March 2023, a judgment was passed by a constitution bench of the Supreme Court of India, and the Supreme Court has ruled that the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners in the Election Commission of India will be done by the President of India on the recommendations of a committee, and the committee shall consist of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition of the Lok Sabha and the Chief Justice of India. But as I was discussing before also, that the Parliament has tabled a bill in the Rajya Sabha which changes the composition of this committee of the Supreme Court. First of all, Article 324 Clause 2 mandated that the Parliament should make a law in this regard. In which regard? For the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners in the Election Commission of India. But as there was no law, the judiciary had to step in to fill the constitutional vacuum left by the Parliament. But the Supreme Court, even after the Supreme Court ruling, the Parliament has changed the composition of this selection panel, and this is in controversy right now. And this brings us to the moot question of our today's discussion, that should CJI be the part of the selection panel which is responsible for the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioners in India. So as I was discussing before also, future Chief Election Commissioners and election commissioners will be selected by a 3-member panel headed by the Prime Minister and comprising the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha and a Cabinet Minister. Kindly note this term, Cabinet Minister. We will discuss that what has happened in this regard. And the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment and conditions of service and term of office bill 2023 has been tabled by the Parliament in the Rajya Sabha. So this is the bill I was talking about that has been tabled by the Parliament in the Rajya Sabha, and this has changed the composition of the selection panel. So what is now happening, that the selection panel, instead of the Chief Justice of India, consists of the Prime Minister himself and the Cabinet Minister. This means that the ruling party is in majority, and the bill also states that if there is a vacuum in the selection panel, that will not hinder the process of the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners to the Election Commission of India. This means that the bill essentially gives the control to the Parliament to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners in the Election Commission of India. So Parliament has a supreme power in this regard as per this bill. But this is quite in contrast to the Supreme Court judgment which I was discussing before. The Supreme Court had suggested formation of a selection panel, but it had also suggested that CJI should also be a part of that selection panel. Though the Supreme Court in its judgment has ruled that this can be changed by a law made by the Parliament. But the law made by the Parliament has essentially diluted the 5 judges bench, constitution bench judgment of the Supreme Court. And that is why there is a row over this selection panel. The opposition parties have criticized this move of the Parliament. So our constitution envisages separation of power in the 3 organs, that is the legislature, executive and judiciary. So the power distribution in our Indian Constitution is in horizontal terms, and it has been divided in three organs, that is the legislature, executive and the judiciary. So the critics are arguing that this bill essentially brings all of the power in the executive to appoint the chief election commissioners and the election commissioners of the election commission, and this will hinder the impartiality of the election commission. This will hinder the independence of the election commission, and that is why this move by the parliament is being criticized. See, to maintain a democratic structure of the election commission, the CGI should ideally be the part of the selection panel formed for the appointment of the chief election commissioner. But as per this bill, the CGI has been replaced by a cabinet minister. If CGI would have been there, he would have maintained the check and balance in the selection panel. The CGI is also a part of the panel which selects the Lokpal and the CBI director. Lokpal and CBI director. So, for selecting these officers, the panel is constituted and CGI is a part of this panel. In fact, the Goswami committee constituted by the parliament had also recommended inclusion of CGI in the selection panel for the appointment of the chief election commissioners. But let us see what happens, as this is just a bill, this has not become a law yet, but the parliament has explicitly expressed its intention to not include the CGI in the selection panel. With this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have seen what are the provisions regarding the Election Commission of India in our Indian Constitution. We have also discussed the post of Chief Election Commissioner and how his impartiality and independence is maintained in our Indian Constitution. We have also seen the row over the selection panel of the appointment of the CEC and other election commissioner in the Election Commission of India. We have also seen why CGI should be a part of this selection panel, and we have also discussed that to maintain a democratic structure, the CGI should definitely be a part of the selection panel for the appointment of the chief election commissioner. And we have also seen that this is still in a bill form, this has not been made a law yet. Now let us discuss a practice question for your prelims examination. Consider the following statements, and this is a PYQ that has been asked in 2017. So your first statement is the Election Commission of India is a 5-member body. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs decide the election schedule for the conduct of both general elections and by-elections. This is your statement number 2. Then your statement number 3 is Election Commission resolves the dispute related to splits merger of recognized political parties. Kindly drop your answer in the comment section below. Your options are option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 only, option C 2 and 3 only, and option D is all options are correct, that is 1, 2 and 3. So kindly drop your answers in the comment box below. Now let us discuss the practice question for your mains examination. The question is, discuss the procedure for appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. Suggest the reforms in selection committee for CEC and discuss in the light of recent government discussion. So if I try to discuss the approach of this answer, we may see that in introduction you will write the constitutional provisions in regard to the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commission of India, which I have discussed in our today's lecture. Then you will talk about the selection panel responsible for appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and what has the Supreme Court held and what has changed. And you will also suggest some of the reforms in the selection panel for the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner. As I have discussed in my lecture today that it should be transparent, it should definitely have a democratic structure and CGI should be included in it. And you can conclude by saying that it is currently only a bill and it is not a law, so we can wait for the law to come to decide the pros and cons of the parliament's decision. So this can be the approach for attempting this mains question. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you found today's discussion helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such updates. If you have any feedback regarding this session, you can drop it in the comment box below. Thank you.